Good morning. Good morning. At least it's morning where I am. So, welcome to our very first presentation of the weekend. My name is Katie Johnson, and I live in the US. I live in Wisconsin. And I put a little teaser out about 2 minutes ago that asked what your weather was. We don't have snow here in Wisconsin. We did a week or so ago, and now it's gone, but you're definitely going to see some snowflakes today on my project. So, a quick little introduction. I just said I'm Katie Johnson. I'm going to put this someplace and it'll probably be in the way, but if you like what you see, I'm Stamp Lady Katie on Pinterest, Facebook, and YouTube. Let's set that over there. Now that's out of the way. Our projects this time are all about One Sheet Wonder. So before I jump in, One Sheet Wonder is an idea for taking a single sheet of designer paper and then just using it all up, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I have more designer paper in my stash than what I actually need. So quick question. Sorry, teacher and me. I have to focus everybody's ideas on the thing. Why do you buy designer paper? Because if I ask myself a multiple choice question, teacher, I always give tests, there's like 3 answers for me. I buy designer paper because I've got a specific project in mind, and I buy it and I use it up, and that's a good thing. Or I buy it just in case, I look at it and I see some possibilities and I think about how I might use it. So I buy the pack just in case, and then it's there when I get the idea and I'm ready to use it. Unfortunately, maybe you see yourself in this as well, I'm also just a collector of pretty things. And sometimes I buy designer paper just because it's pretty. Leave a comment if that's you too. But I know sometimes I buy it just because it's pretty, and then it sits there because I didn't have an idea for how I was going to use it. So that's what we're going to do this time, is we're going to give you some new ways to think about designer paper that you already have, and hopefully get inspired to go out and start using the stuff that you invested in. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to flip to a screen where I can hopefully see any comments that might come through. I see people like my video. There it is. Okay, wait, I have to turn my microphone down too. Otherwise, you will be hearing that as it progresses. There we go. There we go. You were hearing that in the background. Okay, so let's talk about the project then that I'm going to be making for you. And by the way, if you do get inspired, this is just a thank you for you, but if you do get inspired to make a purchase from what you see here today, remember that you need to place that order with the demonstrator that invited you to the group. And we always have a PDF that we give out as a thank you that's got all the pictures and all the stuff and the links to all the stuff as in the product we used. And the links to the videos so you can go back and watch them at any time. But this time it's going to be special because this PDF is going to have the templates for all of the different ways that we have figured out about how to use up, a full sheet of the paper. So when you look at these templates, some people, their template is to make like one amazing wow card. I know because I'm the one that puts the PDF together, so I've seen them all. Some of them will be like, here's, cut this paper up and now you can make 3 different cards or 6 different cards. Mine, because we're getting close to Christmas, mine is all about mass production. So you're going to be able to make a whole bunch of the same kind of card. And if that sounds boring, I'm going to come back and show you how you can alter it a little bit too. All right, so let's start with the project. I was talking about snowflakes. I'm using Snowy Delights. This has one great big stamp that's a snowflake, and then some little ones that you can put in. The sentiments in here are not really Christmas. That one says joy to the world, but the others are just about winter, sending you joy and many delights, a winter wish for snowy delights, family, friends, long peaceful nights, a warm hello. So this one is a little more generic. It could be used for winter thinking of you cards. It does have a die set. I'm going to show you the dies here in a minute because the dies are just amazing with this bunch. But I want to point out that normally a stamp set and the dies are bundled together. This time, no. The dies are sold separately. They're not bundled with the stamp set. Instead, the bundle is actually some masks, some stencils. Too much to include in today's video, so I didn't even bring those in, but I just wanted to call your attention in case you say, ooh, Katie, I loved your project, and go to your demo and try and buy the bundle. You're not going to get the dies. You're going to end up getting the masks. Okay, so there's a lot of dies in here. Excuse me, they're not a lot of dies. There's only 6 dies, but they're big dies, so they're going to be on 2 sheets. Now, I'm going to start out by showing you this sweet little one down here it makes a little label. Okay, there's a time lag. I can't see on the screen there. Oh, there we go. I had to see if it was showing up. I'm hoping that as I talk, it's going to show up for you to see the stitching around the edge. So this is the die that's in that set. But look how nice it layers with our modern oval punch. All right, so that's fine. If you've got the modern oval punch, you can see that those two gives you a really big border, but hey, it's the same aspect ratio. All right, so these two dies right here, because there's two of them. Okay, these two cut great big solid frames. So that's what they look like. And you can see the dies are nested, which means that these two things are different sizes, which means if you cut out the two of them, that you can layer them together like that. And if you put the two dies together and run them through the machine, you can actually create a frame. So now I am not a scrapbooker, but if you are a scrapbooker, hey Robin, I see you're on. If you're a scrapbooker, this is a great thing to use on scrapbooking for winter pages, because you can use a solid thing and frame a photo, or you can do something like this and frame a photo, or frame some journaling that you cut out with your computer. So anyway, those are the big framelets, and then these are, let's see, these are the other pieces that do the snowflakes. So there's I call it a fat-armed snowflake and a skinny-armed snowflake. And then this little thing down here in the corner that just cuts a bunch of little snowflakes. So what I did on this piece was I'm displaying the holes. In other words, this piece down here, is that showing up in the video? I'm hoping it is. Now I got to move that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so this piece down here, it's going to cut this bunch of holes in your project. But of course, you're going to have the stuff that came out of the holes. These are the negative spaces of these snowflakes. So not a lot of detail in the middle. But again, if you're a scrapbooker, think about that space. It's a big solid space. You could put a tiny picture in there. You could put a little sentiment of some sort in there, in the hole. You could put a picture in here. What do they look like when they're stamped out? They are going to look something like this when they're punched out. So here's the detail that you don't see in that negative space. Here's the detail that's going to show up when you take the positive, I guess, of the snowflake. Same thing down here. And can you see the little stitching that's in this part of the die? That's really kind of fun. I love this little lines that go out on the points of the stars. And then this piece up here, these are the three little pieces, and you could certainly use those on a project too. My brain always thinks shapes. So I looked at that inside shape and I went, oh my goodness, that is a star. So you could die cut that and use that on a project for stars for a night sky. This one cuts more of a hexagon shape and it's a little bit smaller, but gosh, if you do beekeeping, you could punch out a couple of those and do a little thing off to the side with like a hive. These inside pieces down here, they look like a computer controller. They look like mountains if you wanted some tiny little mountains in the background. They look like a collar on a pilgrim shirt, or turn them sideways and turn them into butterflies. Here you're going to get a bunch of ovals. You could make a candle flame. You could make like coffee beans. You could go overboard and put them in a circle and make a flower. Or, let me move my thumb here, underneath you could draw lines on it and turn them into a football. Or you could turn them into a clam for an underwater scene. So, okay, so I know I go way overboard just thinking about all the ways to use things. And of course, the snowflakes are intended to layer on the frames. And I just wanted to point out that it makes a real nice little tag if you're doing gift bags for people. You could create a tag like this and then just, write to from on the back of it. Okay. Normally, I would show you, oops, I just made a little, got to pick that up before my chair rolls over it. Sorry about that. You're going to hear my voice for 2 seconds, but I dropped my die and I'm on a rolly chair and I didn't want to damage the die by rolling on it. Highly unprofessional, but happens sometimes. Normally I show you my project and then show you the samples, but I'm just going to run through the samples really quick and then do my project. You guys, I'm kind of stalling here because my template is the easiest one of all the ones you're going to see. It's the simplest one. So I got to be fancy with something else, right? This is the stamp set. This is the stamps in the stamp set and those tiny little dies. Very pretty. It's tiny little dies in sparkle paper, which you're going to see on today's project. So here's what I wanted to show you before I jump into my project. This die is really big. It takes up a lot of space on your card front, and so therefore you're going to have to think carefully about what you're going to do with a sentiment, how you're going to present a sentiment and make it look like it fits with this great big image. So there's that warm hello, which fits real nicely in the corner if you're going to make that a horizontal card. Now you could turn it into a vertical card and shift the snowflake up, and then you'd have more room for a sentiment on the bottom. Or you could take that snowflake and shift it off to the side. Or you could take that snowflake and shift it up in the corner and cut off some of the edge on it. I was playing around with, I was playing around with a design there. I didn't even glue that onto a card yet. So there's another one. So here's some of that sparkle paper. Isn't that cool? That was my first design. And then I didn't like the angle and the horizontal, so I went to this. Okay, let's talk about today's template. Now, like I said, for some of the templates that you're going to see, some of the templates are going to show you a single well project. Some of them are going to show you a like 2 or 3 different projects. Mine is just made for mass production. I took my 6x6 paper and from the template here that I divided it into 4 equal lines horizontally and vertically, which gives you 16 1.5-inch squares. I'm going to put 3 per project, and that will give you 5 cards, and then you have 1 square left over to start the next set, made for mass production. You will see the template on the PDF if you get it, but what I did was I cut it up into 1.5-inch squares, and now you can begin to play with those squares and decide how to use them. I'll show you what I'm going to do on mine. My project is going to be horizontal, so I'm going to lay them out 1, 2, and 3 in the middle, and there's a little bit of overlap because I went 1.5-inch on the squares, but my card's going to be horizontal. You could certainly take that design and make it vertical. You know, if you're into mass production, sometimes you get a little bored after you've made a whole bunch of one. You can let me know in the comments if you make Christmas cards, and if you do, how many of them you make. And if you make a whole bunch, do you get bored making the same one? Are they all the same, or do you change up the designs? So I will play with the blue in just a moment. I'm going to tell you which designer paper that is too, but I just want to show you playing around with the squares. You can lay out your squares like this instead of diagonal. You can put them in the middle or off to the side. Lots of different ways to play with these things. You can take those 3 that mine are going to be shifted down into the middle on my project, but you can shift them off to the left, make it a vertical card, or turn that into a horizontal card. There's another arrangement for the 3. I could take my great big snowflake and put it over here. So that's about the same. Lots and lots of different options. All right, so let's talk about the designer paper then that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to choose papers from not a Christmas set. You might recognize it. I'm using Beautiful Bokeh. Beautiful Bokeh comes in these kind of pastel-y options for the colors. But when I think about Christmas cards and when I think about snowflakes, I do think of kind of pastel and snow. So look at all these beautiful things. And bokeh is that sort of like maybe a photographer took a picture at night and the lights are different distances away and they kind of fade. Anyway, it's this beautiful look to it with these circles, and I'm going to use this color on my project right here. This is Balmy Blue, versions of Balmy Blue. Now the back side of these is very similar. It's sort of a splotchy design, but I'm going with the bokeh look because for some reason that just said more of a snowfall to me. I'm imagining, because I live in Wisconsin, so I'm imagining being out at night on the city streets and the light shining down and the snowflakes coming down, and that's what that said to me when I saw this. Of course, this paper is not just Christmas. This is when I asked why you buy designer paper, why you buy paper, I didn't buy this for a specific project. This is one, and I didn't buy this just to collect it either. This is one that I bought because I thought, well, this is just one to have on hand. It's going to be good for a lot of different things. So if you're making a list of stuff that you're like, that sounds interesting, I might want to add that to my shopping list, this one is a great generic design. Okay. All right, I'm going to set this off, get this stuff out of the way. I am using another paper on my project. I'm using some sparkle paper for the snowflakes because, you know, snow, it has to be sparkly. So this comes in 12 by 12. This is going to be my accent piece. It's called Peaceful Garden Glimmer Paper, and it has 3 lovely coordinating blues in it. And I know I'm going to hold this one up here, and if I hadn't said that was blue, you wouldn't say it's blue. But technically, this is Cloud Cover. This is I think it's either Azure Afternoon or it's Blueberry Bushel, and this is Secret Sea. And if I just held this one up, you might look at it and go, oh, that's black. But no, it's not really black. It's a really dark, dark blue. Anyway, these 3 come in the pack. So again, if you're looking at something generic that doesn't have to be just for Christmas, because here we are in November, then you might consider that also as something to invest in. All right, I said that the designer paper was balmy blue, so I'm bringing in the balmy blue. Okay, however much time I've been talking, that was the longest part of the presentation. This card goes together so quick. Remember I said mass production. So when I'm mass producing, I want a card that's going to go together really quickly. So this is going to be the base of the card, and I've got some white pieces. Now, the white pieces that I showed you before with when I was playing around were just plain. For this one, I've actually decided to gussy it up just a little bit. So this is the Soft Waves embossing folder, a horizontal card, and I just thought this really added a lot to the whole concept of snowflakes kind of blowing. So that's going to be my special little extra touch on this one. I'm going to pull in the sentiments for this, and we'll do a little bit of stamping, but this is so easy. I have already die cut my snowflake, and I cut it out of that beautiful glimmer paper. We're going to talk issues of adhesive on today's project as well. So let's do the easy part. The easy part is going to be adhering the designer paper and the layers to each other. I'm going to choose to use liquid glue on this project. Well, I got to get the right sides. These sides are so similar. I got to check it out here and stop talking, make sure my bokeh side is down and the other side gets the glue. But I'm decided to use liquid glue on this because when I've got embossed pieces that I'm gluing something to, you know, the up and down and the embossed surface, and I just want to make sure I have good adhesion. I could probably have used my liquid or my double sticky tape, but I'm going to use the glue instead. And this particular embossing folder, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but it actually does some pretty deep embossing, so I think this will be safer. I also need something to grab these with to control it a little bit, and I want lines to make sense to me with nothing askew, so I want this kind of in the middle. Remember, we still need to talk about this giant image and where we're going to put a sentiment on it, because that is an image with the size, that is an issue with the size of this image. Okay, I start with the 2 that are on the outside. That's what I have found works best for placement of that middle one. Bonus of the liquid glue is I can just kind of scooch it a little bit if the sides don't quite look even over here, and if these 2 points don't look like they're quite lined up with each other, again, I can kind of rotate a little bit. That's the advantage of using liquid glue. And then this one is going to go right on top. I had considered raising that middle one up on dimensionals and opted not to, and I will tell you why in a moment. It has to do with the size of the surface on the snowflake for gluing things on. Okay, there's going to be no ribbon on this one, so I can go ahead and layer all of these parts. There's going to be no stamping directly on this, so again, I am safe in layering all my parts. If I was going to stamp on this card front, I would wait to glue all my parts together in case I messed up. Been known to do that in the past. And of course, if you're going to put some ribbon on it, you probably want to do that before you glue all the parts together. I like my tape runner because it's so fast and easy, but sometimes the liquid glue is just the right thing to use. Okay, so having said that, let's talk about this snowflake, because we're going to glue the snowflake down, and the size of those arms is an issue for what adhesive you use. And I'm going to put my sentiment on the front of it, and again, there's going to be an issue of what sticks to glimmer paper. Actually, let's make my sentiment right away here. So I'm going to use the 2. This one's going to go on the inside. I just broke my rule, didn't I? Because I should have stamped on the inside of the card before I put everything on it. But that's okay. We will just assume that I'm going to be super good and careful about it. So on the inside, well, here, let's tell you what's going to be on the outside. Otherwise, when I say the words, it doesn't make sense. The outside is going to say, a winter wish for snowy delights. Whoops, I was crooked. Let's flip that over. One of my stampers, and she will know who she is, said the thing that brought her to me was that I make mistakes on the camera and then just blow them off and fix things. So flipped it over. All right, I'm going to hope this is straight because it's inside the card. So now I have a pair of sentiments on the outside that says, a winter wish for snowy delights with family and friends and long winter nights. And then I'm going to come in and just add a couple of little snowflakes off to the side, and the inside is done. And the stamping is done, and the ink pad goes away. All right, so the end look is going to be this sentiment made a little bit pretty. Actually, what I'm going to do on this one is freehand cut it. Woo-hoo. Let's see how straight I can do this. And I'm going to cut a little banner. And you've probably seen lots of people do this in the past. So I go up from the middle and then come in from the sides. And if I was doing this for a project that I was going to like take pictures of and show everybody how awesome, well, I'm going to do that for you guys. But the one I'm constructing right now, I am kind of going through it a little bit quickly. How even is that? Not. But I have room over here to fix it. I'm going to take that. Sorry, I got to fix this because it just has to look better than it does. A little bit there and a little bit there, and then whatever it turns out, it's good. We'll just make it. This is going to go across. So that is another way that you can treat a large image like this snowflake with a sentiment going across it. I cut a 1-inch piece. In retrospect, I could probably have brought that down to 3/4 of an inch and then had a little bit more of the snowflake showing through. That's all fine. This, when I get around to putting it on, this is going to go mounted on with dimensionals. And the reason that I'm going to put that on with dimensionals is because it's going to be potentially touching that glimmer paper. Things don't stick to the front of the glimmer paper. That it's sort of a plasticky mica chip thing. It doesn't come off. I mean, you can rub it like that and nothing comes off on your hand, but things don't stick to it real well. So my tape runner and my liquid glue are the wrong thing to try to use to glue something to the front of glimmer paper. So that's why I've got the dimensionals. Now, the next thing is these are pretty small surface. I can come back and put little glue dots on each of those things, or I'm going to show you both, or I could come in and just put a little bit of the tape, the tape runner. This is the fast and easy going around, and I would do every one of the ends of the snowflake just to make sure it was stuck well. The other option would be to come in and hit it with a little bit of glue. And again, the little bit of glue would let me zhuzh it around if it needed to be moved. I'm going to line this up. Look how pretty that is. All those little arms sticking out and the little glitter. I almost felt bad coming in and adding a sentiment. In fact, this would be just fine to send this card this way. I just love the look of the embossing in the back and the snowflakey looking paper there, even though that's what they didn't intend it for, and the really pretty design in that snowflake. But there is my card. So you cut the squares, you lay them on, you cut the snowflake, you lay it on, you slap a sentiment on, boom, you're done. Emboss it in the back if you want. And again, if you decided that this was the right thing to do for mass production, you can always change it up by moving those squares around and kind of playing with the square placement like I showed you in the beginning. Hey, I hope that you were inspired by how easy it is to take a single sheet of designer paper and cut it up and turn it into, and use the whole thing and just make a bunch of cards, crank them out. I hope you're inspired to play with the design. I hope that you are inspired to go check out your designer papers and pull them out and decide which ones would be great for which kind of a design. And I'm going to show you one more here real quick before I'm done. If you end up, you could also end up using paper like this. Now this, it would be harder to cut it up into even 1-inch squares, but you could go through and find the individual pieces and cut out the individual doves, and put like one dove on each square and turn that into your focal point. All right, so I hope you're inspired to play. If you're inspired to purchase something, remember that you're going to place your order with the demonstrator who invited you to the group, whether it's the glimmer paper or the bokeh paper or the folder or the snowflake bundle. Well, not the bundle, not if you want the dies. You got to buy the dies separate. And remember that this PDF is going to have all the templates, the correct one for mine. I just thought I would hand draw it beforehand, and I wasn't thinking straight when I hand drew it. I drew it wrong. But it's 1.5-inch squares. And I've seen all the templates. You are going to love them. So lots of great designs coming up in the rest of this morning, today, and tomorrow as well. You're going to see some great projects, and Jackie Lawrence is coming up next at the top of the hour. So I will see you again next time, and thanks for watching. Bye.